And SBS correspondent Claudia Farhat joins us from the West Bank. Claudia, as we've reported, a Palestinian man was killed by shrapnel from an Iranian missile there. What do we know about the man?
Ricardo, so one of those 200-odd Iranian missiles landed here in the West Bank in the city of Jericho, which is just east of Jerusalem. It landed shrapnel. Palestinian man. Local media are telling us that he is actually a worker from Gaza who was in the West Bank at the time of the October 7 attacks when the war broke out and has been stuck here ever since. The shrapnel ultimately killing him last night. We were in Jerusalem when all of this was happening last night, and I can tell you there were sirens going off around the entire city, everyone getting alerts to their phones and rushing to their nearest shelters and bunkers. Here in the West Bank, it was a very different situation. Palestinians tell us that unless you live particularly close to a Jewish settlement, there wasn't much warning at all in terms of sirens or notifications that this attack was coming in, and there were certainly no large public shelters for them to seek safety in. So although these missiles, Ricardo, were aimed at Israel, certainly a very stressful night here in the West Bank as well.
And Claudia, several people have been killed in a shooting in Tel Aviv. What's the latest we've heard from Israeli police?
Yeah, Ricardo, this attack happened really just moments before we got the warning that those Iranian missiles were coming in. Israeli police say two men armed with a gun and a knife started attacking passengers just outside a light rail station in Jaffa, which is part of Greater Tel Aviv. They say they killed 7 people and injured another 11, with 6 of those 11 still in a serious condition, and the death toll has still been rising from that attack this morning. The authorities say both the men came from the West Bank, and they're describing the attack as a terrorist incident. They say both the men were shot during the incident, and they don't believe that there's any further threat relating to that attack last night. However, Israeli authorities had been telling the public to be on incredibly high alert for these kinds of attacks over the next few days, and that's because we've got 2 things happening this week. The first is Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, which begins this evening, and the second, a few days later, will be the first anniversary of the Hamas October 7 attacks on Israel and ultimately the war in Gaza that has followed. Between those 2 events coming up, and with the escalation in the north with Hezbollah this week as well, authorities have said that these kinds of attacks were not only possible, Ricardo, they were incredibly likely. With 2 last night within the space of an hour, I think it's left a lot of people very concerned about what the next few days has in store.
Okay, that is our SBS correspondent Claudia Farhat joining us from the West Bank.